Great.
Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited for today's interview. We are talking to a very well-loved and very well-known author. We are talking New York Times best-selling author and reader award-winning. I don't even know what's happening right now. Like a little bit of sexy romance with a bit of humor. We are talking to the one and only Annika Martin, or also known as Carolyn Crane. How are you today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing? Thank you so much for having me on your show.
I'm so excited to have you because you are such an amazing author and you have some really cool books out. And I'm excited to delve into just your journey and how you got here today.
Oh, well, hopefully I will make it interesting because I feel like I'm kind of the turtle.
No, you've published a lot of books and you have two pen names as well. So I guess, want to go back to the start and ask why you started writing and how was it for you?
Well, I mean, I'd always sort of dreamed of being an author, because I was a nerdy girl who loved to read. That was like my thing. I loved books so much. And, but I feel like I was always like, oh yeah, I'm a writer, but I always had other jobs. I was a waitress. I was a shop clerk. I was an advertising writer. I was like all these other things, but I was like a writer too. And like, I write fiction. And, but I was never really like, where are the books? Like, I wasn't really writing seriously. And so I had to kind of, I guess like at some point I was like, I have to be really like, make a serious commitment, make it a priority, make it, like kind of give up some stuff to do it. Just really, kind of arrange my life around, rearrange my life. Like I was like, I'm sort of the smartest in the morning and I'm sort of stupid at night. And so like, how can I carve out those hours for writing, And so I had to kind of just really be deliberate about it. And so I did. And then I was writing like a lot of books that were like neither fish nor fowl, as like my friend said. Like I would be like, I'm writing chick lit, but it's also sexy and there's a mystery in it, And so it was really, I was trying to be traditionally published at the time, and my books were really hard to sell because are they mystery? Is this romance? Is this literary fiction? What is it? And I was like, well, it has something for everybody, but you can't sell that kind of book really. Well, you can, but I couldn't as an unknown author. I'm sure Stephen King could sell that. But so anyway, then like I'm like, this are the steps of seriousness of my journey. So then had to be like, okay, where am I really aiming? Like, if I want to get an agent has to know how to sell it and who to sell it to. Like, what are other books that are like what I'm trying to do, and what books do I love that, I can't just make up my own genre and, be my own like self, like, which is sort of sad. Like, it would be good, but also, readers, like, they like a specific thing. Like, if you're a mystery reader, you don't want peanut butter in your chocolate sometimes. So but then like right around that time, I was getting really into Laurel K. Hamilton. I'm sure you know who that is. And also Carrie, Carrie Arthur. I think you had her on your show.
Yeah, I love Carrie Arthur.
Oh my God. And right, because she's an Aussie, isn't she? And then also, anyway, a lot of paranormal. And so I was like, and at that time, I was just so into that paranormal stuff. Like, I would just stay up and read. It was like I was going from. It's like I had discovered that whole genre, and I hadn't even been reading romance really. And so I was like, this stuff is great, and it just made me feel like a kid again, almost like, oh, look at me with my book, go away. And so I was like, this is what I'm writing now. And so then I did write. I wrote urban fantasy. I wrote an urban fantasy. And that was picked up by Random House. It was a trilogy, but they, after my first book came out, they were like, and it didn't sell well enough. We're only going to publish 2 of your trilogy. And it was before self-publishing came along. So I was pretty sad. But finally, like, a small press published the 3rd one, and then indie was taken off. And in a way, I see it as a blessing in disguise because I really love being self-published.
Because it's interesting hearing you step by step. And I think it's one of those things when people are looking at going through an agent and traditionally published, it's harder. You really have to know your market and you really have to write it to market. Whereas when you do indie publish, you have a little bit more flexibility in that. And it's interesting that you identified that through obviously hardship and realizing that it wasn't saleable at the time. And the reality too that, you know, a lot of people think traditionally publishing is very glamorized, but the reality is that sometimes the trilogies don't meet their final book or things like that, because it can be very cutthroat as well, which is where indie publishing makes it such a wonderful opportunity for everyone as well in that sense.
It's amazing, right? Yeah, I mean, so lucky. We're so lucky to be writers right now. I just feel like I'm really happy about it. Yeah.
We're really in our power. I mean, you're really in your power as well. You were doing so well with your indie published books. I'm assuming all of Annika Martin is indie published and all of Carolyn Crane is traditional.
You would think that Carolyn Crane, like I made that distinction, but that is really not where Annika or Annika Martin came from. People say it both ways, and I actually think that I mispronounced it, but I only ever read it and I thought it was a pretty name. So if you can say it both ways. So I was Carolyn Crane for a while. I was published in 2010, and then I decided to go indie with I can't remember the order, with some spy novels. And then I felt like really sort of like things were getting stale, and I never really kind of found my stride. Like, you know, like as writers, you see these sort of people that really take off, like, oh, look, this person's exploding and you want to explode too, right? And you're like, why can't my book be in the top 10? Or, you know, or like, maybe I'm in the wrong genre, or, you know, why isn't this working? And so, and that's another like learning thing that I've come to, is that it's just really slow and steady wins the race. You can't just go, where's my magic bullet? Because really there isn't one. But at the time I was like, oh, the spy novels really aren't working, and my urban fantasy really isn't working. And then I had done this other crazy book that really wasn't working. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to write the most wild, like dirtiest freak out thing on a secret pen name, and just be crazy and have fun and let go of all like what I want and stuff. So, and that was when the Kinky Bank Robbers were born. and I didn't tell anybody about it for a really long time. And then, but I had more fun being Annika somehow. I don't know why, just because it was secret and sort of, and weirdly, I'm a plotter. I love to plot books, but that was the first time I'd ever pantsed a book. It just like everything changed when I became Annika. I just feel like I'd shed some sort of perfectionistic expectation. And so then I just kept writing those things. And then I wrote like just a few other books as Annika, and people started to know that I was, you know, I started telling people. It's really hard to keep a secret, pen name secret. So, and by that time I was back to plotting, but then I just thought, you know, Annika is like, it feels more fresh and new, and it's my new name. And so usually like people will do a new pen name where like, I'm YA and I want to write something erotic. That would make sense. It sort of didn't make sense, except I just wanted to kind of shed my skin as a, like, I don't know, like a snake into a new, now I'm a new snake.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing. I want to bring up one of your well-loved series, Billionaires of Manhattan. I love the covers on those. They have thousands of reviews. People love them. And I want to know what gave you the inspiration for that series. And I also want you to choose your favorite character from those.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, the inspiration was, you know, in a way, like I had started I'd started my writing journey as like writing sort of humorous chick lit type stuff, but with the kitchen sink thrown in. And so in a way, coming back to like romantic comedy felt like coming home. Like, I mean, I think it was just a thing of like, listen to yourself. So like, I went into the genre going, this was what I sort of was always a little bit going toward. And so I feel like part of the success of it is just like, I sort of found my niche after trying on a lot of different genres and different clothes. And I still really like to write dark. Sometimes I like to switch off, but it feels like this is really my core voice. And so, but like it really started as a single story, because they're all standalone. So, but it was inspired actually by a news story. I don't know if you remember this. It was back in like the 80s or 90s where there was this much hated hotelier, or is it hotelier? I don't know, a hotel like owner, Leona Helmsley in New York. And she owned all the most beautiful hotels and was like a mega millionaire. And everybody hated her and she was really mean. And she had this little white dog, and she died and left her fortune to the dog, or not, I don't know if it's her whole fortune, but she left $1 million or a couple of million. And people were really mad because, she had actually literally left it to her dog, and people like took it to court and whatever, I think got the money back. But I always thought, oh, that would be, I just was always fascinated that this dog had inherited all this money. And so I thought that would be a fun book to write, like maybe someone's the dog's caretaker and speaks for the dog. And then the heirs are like really angry. And, and then so anyway, that's basically the plot of Most Eligible Billionaire. Is she's like this, my heroine was, the dog walker, and really had a bond with the dog. And the old woman was like alone and had alienated everybody. So she left everything to the dog with my heroine as the spokesperson. And then her son, the rich woman's son, felt like the heroine was a scammer and was really doing everything he could to undermine the dog and my heroine. But of course, they got together. So then that was really well received, and it really felt good to be writing it. So then the next book, I got the idea. I'm just going to be short about this, but I get a lot of my ideas this way. It's a weird way to get ideas, but I'll hear about a book that I'll get really excited about that someone else wrote, and I'll be like, oh my God, that's such a great idea. And this happens and this happens and this happens, and I can't wait to read it. But then I'll read the book and I'll be like, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted the book to be, or that's not what I thought the idea was at all. I completely think it's a different book than is. And I'm like, well, that's what I want the book to be though. So then I write it. So sometimes I get them off headlines, or sometimes just things that I really am curious about. I'm really fascinated by, Wild Boys, where there's a boy that lives in the forest and grows up in the forest, completely wild, like a savage. There was one in France, right, where they pulled him out. He had long hair and he was just this wild boy, completely uncivilized. And I was like, well, I'd like to write about a wild boy. So I wrote one like that, so I don't know. It's just things I'm just really interested in.
I love
that. Was Savage Mafia Prince. He's from a mafia family, but he was raised by wolves, literally.
I love that. That's so awesome. So how do you find them? Because one of your previous jobs, you were a copywriter for advertising, which I find super cool. Did you find that kind of helped you translate into author career, whether it was creating ads or your writing or your blurbs?
Oh, that's a really good question. It's interesting because you'd think it would help me with advertising, but it really doesn't. In a way, it helps me with, what it helps me most with is taking feedback, because when you're in advertising, people are just like, oh, this is a piece of crap. Don't show me this ever again. You get to be, have a really thick skin, but also you get to know how to take feedback. I want this piece of copy or this website or a slogan to be the best it can be. I want people to like it. And, my bread and butter was making a thing the best it could be. So, you get to know how to go, this feedback's valuable. That feedback is a little bit valuable. You just ruthlessly kind of take everything everyone's saying to make your thing good. And, so it's really I'm kind of a feedback whore. I send my stuff around to all my author friends, and they send stuff to me. And I always want to know, what do you think? And so it's taught me not to take things really personally. You can't take things, you can't be like, this is my baby and you've hurt me now if you don't like this ending or whatever. I'll just be more grist for the mill and I'm going to use it, or I won't. Sometimes you kind of, so it's helped me filter good and bad feedback. And then, but as far as helping with ads, I would say no. Hooks help me with ads, understanding books and hooks. Have you read Theodore Taylor's new book, 7-Figure Fiction?
No.
Oh my God. So yeah, it's the best thing ever. But it's sort of about what are people's universal fantasies, and about hooks with books. And so that's really helped me with ads more than my copywriting background. Advertising never was about a hook. It was more like a slogan, like, this door is your destination or whatever.
One thing that I found interesting too is I want to know about your writing process. You love going to cafes and writing. And I read somewhere that your hubby is a writer as well. So what kind of writer is he? Is there a little bit of competition or?
Oh, that's so funny. No. Actually, he's like an amazing writer. He's more of a nonfiction writer, and he does like essays, and, he's got, a few books in the works. And I know I really missed coffee shops during the pandemic a lot, but it's a really good thing that we're both writers, because we can write together. Otherwise, a lot of writers are like, oh, my family's really complaining that I'm off writing. I think it would be really hard. So it's really lucky that we could do it together, But no, we're not really competitive. In fact, we're really good critique partners. He is a really good, even though he doesn't write fiction, he consumes like a lot of, he has a real strength with, he grew up on comic books, and he has this really strong sense of heroism and a really good sense of stories, actually. And he loves like Marvel movies and all this stuff. So he's a really good feedback person. Also, he's really psychologically astute in a way that I'm not. And so, but although a lot of times he'll be like, this guy wouldn't say that. And I'll be like, no, in reality, probably not. But in my book, he is totally saying that. Like my guys are not really that realistic. But yeah. So, and then I read his stuff, of course. And like, so, and I think being a novelist, you can like bring a lot to nonfiction or a memoir, or just in terms of editing, like our noses are in words all the time. So you can always kind of look at another piece.
So what is your writing process? And when you're writing a book, do you have a certain process? You said before you went from plotter to pantser. What does that look like for you now?
I only was pantser at first when it was a secret pen name, and now I'm back to plotting. It's terrible. I really want to go back to pantsing. I actually haven't found a comfortable process. There's this myth in my mind, and I need to get rid of it, about like, there's a lot of writers out there who write a really easy first draft and then they're done and it's really fun. And then they go to the next book. And like my drafts come out, like, I feel like I'm clawing to the end of the draft, right? You do that too, right? It's really hard. And then once I have the draft, like, I feel like it's good and viable and stuff. And that takes me a long time. Like I'll tear it apart and rebuild it. And then like, do you plot?
Loosely, I do a skeleton, like I need to get to here, to here, to here, and then I'll let my characters sort of go through it. Mm-hmm. So I'm more of a pantser.
Yeah, okay. I know, I really want to be pantsering again, but I don't have a really comfortable writing process, but yeah, basically I'm just cranking out that first draft as best I can. And then I love fixing it. Like I love fooling around with it. Like if I didn't have pre-orders out, I would still be writing a lot of these books because I love like, oh, let me toy with this. I love editing. But anyway, so I plot my process it's just like I take a really long time to get a draft and get it right. Like I'm finding, who really helped me in this is Susan Elizabeth Phillips. Not that I know her personally, but she's like a rom-com writer, sort of a traditionally published old school one. And I saw her talk one time and she's like, I just move my people around like paper dolls on the board. And while I'm writing, I get to know them. And I always felt like kind of self-conscious that I didn't really know my characters right away. Like my characters don't take over the story really. Like I'm just sort of moving them around and going, what are they, and as they evolve. So that is my writing process. It's sort of like, I'm just kind of going at it from all angles, but also I know what I think is funny. I think a lot about the concept of, like my billionaires in the billionaire series, my billionaires are always sort of the straight man. You know how in comedy, there's like the person that's the jokey person and the straight man. And Cressley Cole does this amazingly with her. Do you read her Cressley Cole?
I haven't
you know.
read her yet, but she's on my to read list. I really want
Oh
to.
my gosh,
I know.
she's so amazing. So her immortals, like there are these really fun, witchy, kind of female characters who are always just sort of taking the piss out of the big, like immortal, like I am a vampire, and so in a way she has that dynamic too. And like, so I don't know, I think about my billionaires as like, I am this billionaire, I'm like so great. And then like my heroines are always poking fun at them or kind of, bringing them down a notch a little bit. And I'm always kind of playing with that dynamic. Like I can't have them too sympathetic sometimes. Like if I make them too sympathetic, then my heroine is unsympathetic when she's kind of, pokes the balloon. So I'm always kind of playing with that dynamic. It's quite the balancing act, isn't it?
I love that too. I love that you are very conscious of the dynamics that's happening in your characters, and also what your audience and readers love. Like they love that humor, they love that quick wit. And I think it is like a very, I don't know if it has a trope name, so to speak, but I think a lot of people do like the straight-laced guy and then the woman who just keeps going and going and going. And you love it. You thrive for it.
I really enjoy it. Yeah. And I'm like, should I like change it up? But I like writing it like so.
So something that I found super amazing is that you are a New York Times bestseller and you are also a Reader Award-winning author. What books, when, how, what did you do to celebrate?
Well, okay. The New York Times one is actually, it was an anthology with Skye Warren. So we both got ours at the same time. And she put it together. So it was like this sort of, it was like, it was just a fun like anthology back in the day when anthologies could get on the New York Times. So it was super exciting and amazing because I'd never imagined it. And then the reader was really amazing. That was for one of my spy books. It was this, he was a secret agent. He solves mysteries through linguistics. And so he's a word nerd. And so he's like a word nerd detective. And the Rita is judged by authors. So I feel like it was kind of an unfair advantage because we all love like word guys. But anyway, it was really amazing because also it just felt good because I was at the ceremony and it was the first year that they'd let indies in. And it was the first indie book that had won. And it just felt really special and just like an amazing honor. And just like, I could feel like my indie friends in the room. Cause it had been a long time of indies feeling like second class kind of, and like, they're not real writers and stuff. So it just felt like we all kind of won something a little bit, like just affirmation of being like at the same table with the traditionally published authors a little bit, not like my win did that, but it just felt like, we're kind of climbing the ladder too. It was amazing. It just like felt like so much goodwill from my friends, I don't know. It was just really like one of the best moments of my life, really.
So did you have to go on stage and collect?
I made a speech on a big Jumbotron.
Wow.
It was crazy.
That's such an amazing moment to have. And you are right in the sense that I think it's only in recent years that indie authors are being acknowledged as equal as well, because there was a lot of stigmatization against us that we were less or had less quality or value. And now I love that it's just being equally seen that it's just an opportunity for people to create their own business with what would be the cookie cutter mold for a traditional publisher.
Mm-hmm. Right. And just invent new genres and be like, you can do so much niche stuff that a publisher has so many numbers to make. They can't go, oh, we're going to do this crazy little thing. But, there's people that want that thing. Yeah, it's just so amazing. So it was great.
Speaking of your box set created by Sky Warren, I love her. I have had her on previously in an interview, and I was so amazed to find out that you actually write a series with her. So I want to talk a little bit about your co-writing adventure. How did you find it initially, and what tips do you have for those who might be looking at co-writing?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love co-writing, and, she and I were friendly, and we just really liked each other's work. Like, we didn't know each other that well, but we were just talking one time. We are like, well, what if we like co-wrote this? And, it's sort of like this. Right now, there's two books in this series. We write them like the first one was in 2014, and the second one was in 2018. So it's like things have to really line up for us to write these books. But it's just like, I'm a big control freak, and I think a lot of authors are like big, really like to have full control, especially indie authors. Like, you have control of everything when you're an indie. And so co-writing is a massive exercise in giving up that control. And also, like, I feel like Sky and I have complementary strengths. Like, we're not the same writer, because I think like there would be a sort of a temptation to co-write with somebody who is like you. But like Sky she's a beautiful writer. She has, her prose is beautiful and dreamlike, and and I'm more like a builder, and so I feel like we really worked well together. I don't know if she would concur with me building a builder and
I would
she's
say
dreamlike,
so.
but that's how yeah.
Did you get back for the second book? I think it went all right.
Yeah, it went really well. And so you have to kind of give up a lot when you're co-writing. Like, if one person doesn't want it, you can't have it, and that's like a really hard experience. Like, there'd be so many times with writing where I'd be like I write in the mornings and she writes at night. And so like I'd go and I'd edit her stuff, like what she had written, then I'd write on. And then at night she'd like edit and change my stuff and then write onward. So we were leapfrogging a little bit. It wasn't like trading off voices. We're just doing the whole thing like that. Sometimes I would like write something and she'd be like, I really hate that you had him do that. Or like, you know what, we can't have this scene. Or, or I'd be like, oh, it just doesn't feel right, And so it's just like, okay, we have to find a different route. And like, I mean, there'd be so many times where I'd be saying to my husband, like, after a morning, like, oh my God, I hope Sky doesn't like hate this, because I love it so much. But then she'd hate it, But in the end, we'd find like a third way that was superior. Like, two brains are really, if you get the right two brains, really are smarter than one. Like, I feel like I really love the books that we wrote together. And I think they're the product of like two separate brains that were like building on each other. And so, but you really have to like let go. Like, you can't fight for your babies. You have to go. You have to be cool with going, you don't like it, then it's out. We're just, no argument. You know what I mean? Because I think co-writing can crash like that, where you have an argument and you have to like practice non-attachment. It is really hard as a writer to do that. So many scenes I didn't want to lose, but I'm glad I did. And I'm sure she feels the same way. Maybe not, but And it's also awesome. Have you ever done it? It's also awesome because can you imagine like you're working on your manuscript and the next time you open your computer, there's like several more pages written and it's improved.
That was for Criminals and Captives series too, that you did with Warren, wasn't it? Okay, I'll put the links below so everyone can grab it. I'm excited to read it. You have translated into audiobooks and different translations. How did you find that? I think you had Hebrew, French, and German, was it?
Yeah, and Italian. Yes. I mean, I need to update my website. Italian and French, yeah. And Japanese maybe is coming.
That's so
for
cool.
One of the spies. It's crazy. So the most of it is, overseas publishing companies buying the rights to translate. But then some of it, like I will find my own translator, which is really actually hard because like I've found my own translators for some German stuff, The Spies out in German, and I'm doing some French. But like when you don't know the language, it's hard to evaluate the translation. It's hard to know, like, is this person being really literal? Like the translator has to be their own writer. So I'm in this process of kind of trying to get people to look at them and going, is this like, how do you feel about this prose? Like, because it's weird. Like I can't tell I feel stupid. I can speak German somewhat, but I certainly can't like write a novel in it. You know what I mean? I can speak like, what 4 years of German will get you. Not that one. Certainly not novel writing.
Yeah. And I think too, though, it's amazing that you're able to do that. And I guess it is that sense of losing control as well, because you don't know exactly what it's saying specifically, but it's also exciting to have I guess it's a moment really for every author to have it expand to different languages because there's such demand for your story.
It's like so cool. It is so cool. Yeah. It's amazing. Like I love it. And I was in Rome in 2019. I got to meet some people that had read my books in Italian, and it was just so cool. It was so cool.
Oh my goodness.
I wish I could read them in Italian just to know how I don't know. I mean, not that I would want to read my own books, but just to talk to them, or you know what I mean?
I want to talk about your experience. So this is a hurdle for many authors and writers, is acquiring an agent. So what advice would you offer to those who are looking at pitching, and what tips would you suggest for if they are offered a contract?
When I was querying, it was like 2009 or something like that. So I don't know, but there was this website that just showed what agents represent what books. So I'm sure there's some still. It was agentquery.com. But not that one, but I'm sure they've evolved. I'm sure. So, I mean, I really just like went to school on the authors, and I also like looked at my favorite books. And if you look in the acknowledgements, you could figure out who has what agent. And so I was like really like looking at that. And then I just, I queried a lot of people, and then my current agent, she was like, I like it, but I really want you to like seriously rewrite a lot of it. And then I just was like, yeah, I'll rewrite it. And I did. And I think she needed to see that I could be flexible. And so she picked me up, and she went out and stole my book. I mean, it was incredibly exciting to have her selling the book. But I mean, you just have to kind of look at, the agent is really like a real estate agent in a way. It's like, you're not really working for them. They're selling a property that you've got. And so, you want to like have it be in the best condition possible. Like don't have it and with the market, and knowing what the market is like. And these agents all have relationships with editors. So it really is like a good lead to have a book, to know, my book fits in with this catalog that this agent's been selling. And I think a lot of people are like, oh, I have to have like an in to get to this agent, or like to know somebody. But I really feel like maybe that helps you get read faster, or like maybe they give you maybe 30 seconds extra. But I really feel like you just have to have a really strong query letter. Like just make sure the hook is there, and like show them how they can sell it. They don't need to recognize your brilliance or anything. They just need to go, this is something that I think that this editor I know would like, but you just have to keep querying like a lot of people. Like I know authors who queried like 30, 40, 50 people before they found their agent. And I also know authors who gave up after 5 when they had really good books. Yeah. And I get super frustrated when I hear that, because it's like, it's just a numbers game. Just keep, they're out there, but you got to blanket the terrain a little in order to find that agent sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think it's important too, as an author, that what your market is, what your book is about, very precise, instead of being wishy-washy in your query letter, because they read so many every day. So they need to know that what you're offering them. It has to kind of be an ideal package, because I think that's what a lot of writers go into, because they're like, oh, I sort of don't know who I'd compare to. I don't know where I'd put this on the shelf. If you don't know, then your agent probably isn't going to, or that agent, should I say, isn't going to really read all the way through to the end of the book, because how are they meant to know? Like they need to know whether it's sellable or not straight away almost.
Oh, totally. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, they won't even read to the end of your query letter. Yeah.
Love it.
I know. Someone was asking me about query letters the other day, and I was like, I really got a lot out of reading examples of other people's query letters, but I don't know, I couldn't find any out there of, examples of query letters that are really successful. Like, are there any like that? Because that helped me a lot.
I found it interesting. There's a particular agent that I have my eye. Well, I've got a list, but I have a specific agents that I would really love, and I've actually made sure to follow them on social media. When they've had interviews, I've listened to their interviews, and they have mentioned sort of standout. There was one with. I'll send you the link afterwards. I've forgotten her name. I think it was like Joanne Penelope. Who is New Leaf Agency. I hope I don't have a name wrong, but she's the president basically. And she was saying some of the standout queries that had her. And the thing that I hear often, whether you're watching on YouTube, is that immediately they get a sense of the tone and of the character. That they, while reading the query, it's not you writing the query, that they hear and have a sense of who the character is. And I found that really interesting.
That is interesting, right? Yeah. Because
So
they probably get so many, they just have to kind of just sniff it out with their nose. Yeah.
Yeah. What has been, this is my favorite question, well, one of my favorite questions to ask. What has been your favorite book to write so far and why?
I want to say Wake Up Call Girl, just because I had the most fun writing that one. And it felt right. But also, like, I really liked writing Savage Mafia Prince, because that's the Wild Boy one. It also has a writer in it. She's a journalist. And so I just really, I don't know. So it's hard because, like, the Mafia Princess ones are kind of dark, but and the rom-coms are light. It's hard. So for light ones, I'd say my favorite one is Wake Up Call Girl, because it just felt like the right book. It just felt like a magical book to me.
That's actually on my to read list.
What?
That one's on my to read list. So I was like, oh, that sounds so much fun and quirky. So I'm gonna read that one.
It was really fun to write, yeah. And it was just, everything kind of felt like magical in it, how certain books do. However, Savage Mafia Prince was sort of my favorite in a way, but it was one of the hardest books to write. And I was just telling this author friend of mine just yesterday, she's like, I was reading her book and I was like, oh my God, this is so good. And she's like, it was so hard to write. And I was like, sometimes the hardest books to write turn out to be the good ones, and the easy ones are like, weirdly, like, nobody likes it. Which is a sad consolation, but it is consolation.
For those who are watching, what are the 3 top marketing tips you would offer?
Oh, okay. I have been thinking about this a little bit because I knew you would probably want to talk about marketing tips. Okay, so one of the things was write in a series. And I know that doesn't feel like marketing, but when you are sort of marketing a book, if you write in a series, if you sell one book, you may be selling 3 or 5 of them, whereas if so, like, you could be the best marketer in the world and you're selling one book, but you can do a lot better as a kind of a mediocre marketer if you're selling 5. So and people like series. Readers love to, they love to like settle into a world, and then it becomes comforting, so anyway, writing in a series is really good. And like, don't start marketing one book, like wait till you have a few out. Otherwise you're sort of wasting your money in a way, or wasting your effort. Like you want to like put it in your newsletter or let people know about it. But, like, just think about it in terms of a series that people would like. And then I think also, like, a really good technique is to think about to listen to the right people. There's a lot of people selling marketing programs, and there are a lot of people giving marketing advice and writing marketing books. And it's like, not all of them really know what they're doing. Not all of them know how to sell in 2021. Like, some of them know how to sell in 2017, but it's not the same. It's just like important, because there's a lot of people selling marketing classes and things like that who, like, it seems like they're right, but they're not always right. Having a good nose for go-to authorities is really important. Like, for me, I think Skye Warren is really brilliant, and she has like a newsletter, an author newsletter. And I'm not just saying that because she's my friend. She like really is smart about business. And so she's a voice that I listen to a lot. Zoe York's a voice that I listen to a lot. And Theodora Taylor, of course, with her new book that she just did, it's just like, just mind-blowingly helpful. So it's like, get good resources, and then it's kind of an endless flow of great marketing advice. I would also say that Facebook ads work. Like there's been a lot of trash talk about Facebook lately. And it's my husband and I just bought our first house. And like a lot of that is like, thanks to Facebook ads. Frankly, they work. Just learn how to use them, you know.
Amazing.
Takes a while.
Congratulations on buying a new house.
Thank you. It's very exciting. It's our first single family house.
But when you're talking about relevance of sort of what courses you're doing, one thing I like to keep in mind is that they're still writing books, that they're still relevant. And I always like to keep in mind as well that people can walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So what I always check for, and as you said, some people know how to sell in 2017, not necessarily 2021. And although 4 years does not seem a lot, in the writing industry, it is, because algorithms change, markets change. So that person really needs to be in it. They need to be selling their books, and they still need to be hitting those credentials that they're claiming that are still to this date. So that is one thing I would advise other people. What has been your greatest challenge and greatest accomplishment so far?
I feel like my greatest accomplishment is just keeping going when things felt like they weren't working out. I think it's just really important because there's just so much disappointment in writing, and I feel like things are going really great for me right now, and I love my career and kind of my whole life. But like I felt bad about my writing for a long time because I measure myself against other people, and so just kind of keeping going. I feel like every time I'd have sort of things that wouldn't work out, I'd be like, well, I'm just going to write another book. And you just have to keep doing that until you just find your way. Biggest challenge or accomplishment? It's kind of both, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say, when did you become a full-time writer? When did you quit the day job?
Well, I was a freelance copywriter for most of that later time because I could write in the afternoons. And I quit in like late 2016, early 2017. Or was it 2018? I don't know. It was around maybe 2018. I don't know. But anyway, it was like a few years ago. And it was really hard because I was sort of shedding clients as I went, you know, and then I had one security blanket client that was like, they always gave me a lot of work and I could live on that, what they gave me, you know, the work that they gave me, you know, just, it was sort of hard to do, but I was always doing their marketing and never my own marketing. And I was like, I just have to cut and run. And it was really hard. It was one of those, I wasn't quite ready, but it was one of those, you know, you leap and the shore will be there. Or what is the saying? I don't know, but it was something like that. So I was like, am I going to regret this? But I did it. And then I just never did. I never regretted it. It's like, you know, when you like rent a place that's like, oh, it's a little out of my budget. But then once you do it, you just kind of level up to it. So I leveled up to being a full-time writer.
This is my favorite question to ask. What is your goal? What is the dream that you are chasing for your author career?
That is a really hard question because my dream was always being able to make a livelihood doing what I love. And I have that. And weirdly, I don't have a new one. I know. And I really I'm just like, well, I just want to keep going, keep writing these things that I love writing and all this stuff. But I really also really believe in, you know, having a visualization of what you want and going toward it. I really believe in that. So I don't know why it's kind of bad that I need to make one, don't I?
You do. I hope if you take anything from this interview, you got to go back to your visualization board and refresh it.
I totally do, because I had a house on my board. I mean, I literally had one with a house and I don't know, some travel and all this stuff. I need a new one. This one's come through. I gotta throw it away. I have learned something from this interview that I do not have a new dream.
Well, we're talking about leveling up, so you need to find the new goal, the new dream.
I know. What could it be? I don't know. Yeah, I'll think of it. I'll report back.
Yeah, please do. I have a segment, so it's called Speed Dating with an Author. So you and I are going to go on a very romantic date. I lit a candle. I've created ambience. Stop it.
I'm
So,
honored.
oh, stop it, you. So, what it is 5 rapid questions. Are you ready?
Yes. Okay.
What is the clumsiest moment you've ever had?
Clumsiest moment. Oh, well, when I was a waitress, there was a really fancy, a restaurant owner from another, like a really fancy Minneapolis restaurant was at the cocktail bar, and the owner of the cocktail bar was like, we have to give her the best service ever. And so I went, and what I like was over there, and I was delivering her drink, and I spilled an entire tray of drinks on her. I felt really bad. It was like very high stakes waitress. And I'd never done that. I don't know why. And she was really cool about it, but it was so bad.
If if it makes you feel any better, I have a similar story to this. When I was when I was in Edinburgh, I worked at a pub. I was a bar wench and waitressing as well. And I had a thing of a tray of glasses of beer, and there was also kids at the table, so juice or whatever it may be. One of the children was sleeping, so they were like sleeping across the couch, and I put it down, but the table was rocking and uneven, so the whole tray of drinks is gone, and it's spilt everywhere, and I've splashed the sleeping child with beer.
No.
Yeah, I was the worst person ever that day. So I hope that helps you feel comforted in some way.
Right. An innocent child. Yeah, right. That's just as bad.
Businesswoman, innocent child.
Right.
What would be the 3 words would best describe yourself?
I would say optimistic. I'm pretty optimistic, quirky. I guess people say that I'm quirky, and so I guess I'm just kind of taking it on. And level-headed. Though I don't know if people think I'm not, but I do think I am.
What song best describes you?
I've been listening to a lot of Sia, and I think she has that song like "You Will Be Found," or what is that song? It's really beautiful. I think it's called "You Will Be Found," because I feel like I'm always just sort of searching around for things.
I love that. That's a beautiful song too.
It is
your life motto?
Oh, actually, I have a visual representation. This is like a fortune that I got. It's my computer. I taped it to my computer keyboard. It's a fortune that I got at a restaurant one time, and it was years ago, and I've kept it. And it says, "Your brain is a receiver for infinite intelligence." And I kind of just like that, because I just feel like, to me, it means like you know more than you think you do. Like there's like all this information in the world and all this knowledge in the world, and you can just like, if you just sort of let go, it's yours.
I love that you got that out of a fortune cookie too. That's great.
I know. I was like, this is the best fortune ever. And I kept it.
What's a unique talent or skill set that you have that not many people know about?
Well, one time when my husband and I lived in this condo building, we were paying all this money for like this boiler thing, boiler insurance. And then we found out like if a person gets a boiler license in the condo building, like a janitorial type of boiler license, we would cut our insurance bill. So this girl and we were both like very bookish girls, and we went to like take a test to get our boiler licenses. We had no idea how to work boilers, but we like studied really hard for this test and got our licenses. It's so funny. So I have a janitorial, like sort of like a very, sort of sophisticated boiler license. I would never be able to fix or run a boiler. And all I remember is that there's like one feature on many boilers called a tricock. And like this girl and I just laughed about that. It's all I know about a boiler now.
I love how
well, it's expired now. The boiler license is expired, but it's still like, I like to think I have it.
You've still got it framed up. It's not, I'm not an expiry date, so it's fine. But I've had so much fun. What is coming up? Where do we stalk you? What do we need to know?
I am doing a few sort of side projects this fall. Like I'm doing another bank robbers book, and I am doing just sort of a standalone, sort of super sexy dark book that these are just sort of things I've had on the back burner. And then I'm going to start the new year with another romantic comedy. Yeah. And you can stalk me at my website, AnnikaMartinBooks.com. I am going to soon be on TikTok as soon as I get up the courage to start making videos.
You can do it, I believe.
Thank you.
And I believe you're also on Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, yes, of course. Hello, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Right, of course. The old standbys, like
it goes
like
without saying usually. Do you have Twitter as well?
I'm on, not really, no. I mean, I do have an Annika Martin Twitter, but I haven't been on there in years. And there's a Carolyn Crane Twitter. I actually had to cut myself off of Twitter because I was getting too consumed with it. So I have this program where I can only look at Twitter between midnight and 5 a.m., which is time, and I'm always sleeping at that time.
There you go. That's some restraint right there. I love it. Well, I have had so much fun, Annika. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh my God, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for having me. It's super fun.
And we might have to we'll watch this space and maybe we can get you on again in the future.
Yes, and maybe I'll have like an actual dream and vision.
Yes, I would love that. I think we should.
Well, thank you so much for having me, though. This has been really great. And you lit a little candle for our date. I'm very honored.
Oh, thank you for coming. I didn't want to be stood up, so I'm so glad you came.
Of course.
All right, I'll talk to you later, Annika. Bye.
Bye.